Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time again. Let's talk metal. Before I get into tonight's main topic, I do have a thank you to give to Rick over at the Dreadful Minutes YouTube channel. Most folks will know Rick, super nice guy. He does artwork for lots of different websites and YouTube channels and such. But he sent me a VCLT package out of the blue, and so definitely want to acknowledge that and show what he got. First up, a CD by a band called Wrath of Echoes. I'm not familiar with this band, don't know what they sound like, and haven't had a chance to play it, but it'd be interesting to check out. And this is one of the fun things about sending VCLT packages to someone. They just randomly get a box in the mail with some stuff that they haven't had a chance to hear before. And that tends to be really fun for a lot of heavy metal fans. We like checking out new bands that we haven't heard before. So, yeah, I'll see what Wrath of Echoes is like. Next up, Rick included a couple of things from Spirit Caravan. Now, this is Wino's band from around the turn of the century. I don't know if they're still going or not. I haven't heard anything about them in a long time. I heard their debut album, Jug Full of Sun, back when it came out. It was pretty good. It was right there where a lot of that stoner metal stuff was getting a little more popular. And if you know Wino, he's going to stick to a pretty common formula across most of his bands and releases. And yeah, Spirit Caravan fits into that just fine. It sounds a lot like some of the material from The Obsessed, just leans a little bit more in like the stoner direction than the downer direction maybe. Um, but let's see. Dreamwheel is an EP they made, and Elusive Truth is their second album. Both of these from right around the turn of the century. So yeah, it was kind of cool to hear some more of their material. Like I said, it fits perfectly with the whole idiom that Wino has going for him. I just didn't keep up with the band after the debut album for some reason. The fourth and last CD in the package was by a Belgium band called Soul Dissolution. Never heard of these guys before. This EP has two songs. It's called Winter Contemplations, and it is extremely good atmospheric black metal. I'm really, really impressed with this. Even though both the songs are pretty long, about 10 to 12 minutes each, they've got really nice guitar melodies that they repeat at different points in the song, so it kind of helps, make the songs feel more cohesive, easier to remember. The vocals are really well done, that kind of mournful, tortured black metal sound, but relatively clean and clear too, not just raspy screaming. Just you can make out most of the words that they're singing. I even kind of liked the layout on the inside of the digipack. It's a typical trifold, but the fact that it's got one big panoramic picture that spans all three panels, the whole thing just looks really nice, and I really like both the songs. A great example of why it's fun to get VCLT stuff from folks. Never heard of the band? If I just saw this in a used bin, I don't know if I would pick it up or not. I don't really know the label. The cover's okay, but yeah, excellent atmospheric black metal. So, Rick, thank you for turning me on to that band. There were also a couple of LPs in the box. The first one by a band called Wild Beyond. I know nothing about this and haven't had a chance to play it, but really like the cover art. Really kind of cool design for that. And then the last item is something I had almost bought at a local record store a few weeks before I received Rick's package. I never mentioned it. It was just one of those things I saw. I was like, oh, that's neat. I don't have that. Yeah, maybe I'll pick it up another time. But Rick galaxy brained it somehow and figured out I needed a copy of Nile, Black Seeds of Vengeance. And this is their second full-length album. And this one's on a really cool orange and black splatter vinyl. I know some folks are not all that keen on colored vinyl. I tend to like them, and I like the fact that this one matches the color layout and scheme for the cover art. Just it's a little touch, but I think it's kind of cool. I've played this a few times already. It's very much in the Nile vein. I've got a few of the other early Nile albums. I just didn't have this one for whatever reason. I'd never found a cheap copy of it laying around. But yeah, Nile for me, I enjoy their early stuff. Yeah, they do push the envelope a little bit on the brutality angle for me. Super brutal death metal is not my cup of tea. You get to a certain point, and it's just like, okay, that's overdoing it. I'm not interested anymore. But Nile kind of stops just shy of that mark. They usually have really good guitar work. I like the intensity, and Yeah, I do like, reading through all the liner notes. This is the album I think where Carl started writing a lot more in depth about, the source material for each song, which is just kind of cool since they always had that kind of niche Egyptian history thing going on within the music that, to me made it a lot more interesting than another band just singing about, chainsaws and zombies and guts and gore. It's like, yeah, we've been there and done that a million times. Yawn. It's like, this is, yeah, a little different and very cool. So a big thank you to Rick for all of that. All right, now let's get on to tonight's main feature, which is a German band called Brainfever. All one word. Brainfever is, not a particularly well-known band, but they did some really, really good releases, and that's why I want to feature them here. It's exactly my kind of band. The band traces its roots back to the 1970s, but they didn't release anything until the early 80s. And their first release was a self-financed 7-inch single, which seems to have been a little bit unusual in the German metal scene. Usually when you think about early 80s heavy metal singles, you think about like the British scene, new wave of British heavy metal. There were a lot of singles put out by, even American bands and Canadian bands. You don't really think of tons of German metal singles from back in the day. I'm not really sure why that is. A lot of labels did do compilations to kind of help them scout out talent. So maybe more German bands just kind of bypassed the single route and went from demo to compilation to contract. Regardless, Brainfever made this one single. It's got a very distinctive kind of brownish picture sleeve, kind of a warrior motif going on there. And depending on which website you look at, you'll see dates of this listed as coming out in either 1982 or in 1983. I don't know which it is. I've only seen a couple of copies of it. It's a pretty rare single. I don't own it, which is why I'm just showing a picture of it. But let's check out a sample of what Brainfever sounded like on their first vinyl release. This will be a clip from a song called Capture the Night. As usual, I may skip ahead a little bit in the song if it hits like a long intro section, and I'll try to get into one of the main verses or chorus so that you can hear what Capture the Night really sounds like. All right, so yeah, very energetic, kind of rolling there. Big scream to sort of open it up. Kind of almost worked. It was close. But yeah, cool song nonetheless. Now, they did end up reusing that song on their first full-length album. And that came out on Mausoleum Records in 1984. Some people refer to it as Capture the Night. Some people simply refer to it as Brainfever. It's this one. The cover's pretty memorable because you got a big naked dude's butt there on the cover. Funny enough, Discogs won't display the cover. You get one of those, like image not available things. It's apparently a, naked guy's butt in sort of 80s artwork style is too much for Discogs to display. And then, of course, yeah, there's this whole thing going on up here where he's grabbing a string or an arrow or a guitar string and using it to try to pierce the moon. I don't know fully what's going on there. Don't feel like I really need to. But yeah, they did re-record Capture the Night for this album. So let's see what these songs sounded like once they gave it another overhaul in the studio for their debut LP. So here's the next version of Capture the Night. All right, so yeah, personally, I like the redone version better than the single version. It really sort of highlights what exactly Brain Fever was going for. Again, you got this very energetic, rolling kind of sound to it, but there's a little bit of a bottom heavy component to it compared to a lot of bands of that era where things maybe sounded a little more focused on like a higher guitar driven sound, and the rhythm section sometimes got a little bit lost in the background. Brain Fever songs always have, that, good heavy chug to them. They're not in thrash territory whatsoever. This is just, very solid German steel right there in the middle of the 1980s. It's not thrash, it's not power. It's just, excellent German heavy metal. And kind of their secret weapon, if you haven't figured it already, is the vocalist. I believe it's Horst Newman was his name. Really like his style. He's got a slightly deeper voice. He can hold notes really well, give them a lot of power and majesty when the song calls for it. Let's check out another example of a tune from this one. This will be the song Into the Sky. Yeah, absolutely killing it there. Again, just the way those guitars chug along, they can kind of scale up when they need to. Combine that with Newman's voice, gives it the song's almost an epic flair that I really like. It really makes them stand out a lot among their contemporaries. Very unique sound compared to other German bands that were perhaps trying a little bit too hard to sound like Accept around this particular time. Stormwind, I'm looking at you. Iron Angel, I might be looking at you too. Good bands, I like them, but they were following a formula. Brain Fever had a very, very unique sound. Let's do one more clip from this album, just because I like the album a lot. Last clip from the debut album. Let's do one part of Danger of the Night. All right, so yes, another absolute killer from Brain Fever. Yeah, this is one of the releases that always made me kind of stand up and defend Mausoleum Records. Mausoleum, at least during certain periods of history, was kind of known as a band that, or a label rather, that sort of just scooped up the leftover bands that, they didn't really get any of the big name things, and that they were very much a second or even third tier kind of label. Yeah, I don't know anything about the inner workings of the label itself. No, they weren't as highly visible as some other labels, but they put out some very, very good albums. And the first album by Brain Fever is among their best. So, yeah, fantastic debut album. Now, I will admit, not every song on it is as good as the three I just played clips from. There are a couple that are maybe a little more average, but still, there's a strong handful of winning tracks on this album. It's a classic of mid 80s German metal for my money. Uh, the band would make another album, so this is not a one and done band, thankfully. It would be 2 years later, 1986. And this one would be done on a different label called, I guess it's Bacillus Records. Not familiar with this one. I don't know if I've ever seen anything else on this label. And this one was titled Face to Face. So basically, the first one's the blue album, the second one's the red album. And yeah, cover art could be a bit stronger there, perhaps. But again, it's the mid 80s. It's probably a relatively small record label. This isn't Master of Puppets 1986. This is Brainfever 1986. So, you work with it. And yeah, I can deal with the cover. Let's see what the music is like. The lineup for this, I believe they had gotten a new drummer for this album, but otherwise the lineup was intact. We'll do one track from this one. Here is a clip. I believe it's the closing track called Caught by the Fire. Get it to reset. Let's try that again. All right. Yes, the excellent Caught by the Fire, one of the real anthems from the mid 80s German heavy metal scene. So, yeah, the Face to Face album is also very, very good. The production is maybe a little bit cleaner than on the debut album, but the band's still operating in very much the same overall style. I think I prefer the debut just a little bit, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Face to Face album. I think a lot of folks actually prefer that one over the debut LP. That's quite okay too. It kind of just shows both albums have a really, really excellent sound to them. All right. You might imagine that, yeah, 1986 is a bit of a loaded year for heavy metal releases, and Face to Face, it didn't exactly get a ton of press, so unfortunately it was a bit lost in the mix. The band would have one more go at it 2 years later. They would release an EP, this time on Steamhammer, I believe it is, and the EP is simply titled You, YOU. Um, Looks like this. I do not have it. I've only seen it once or twice. So yeah, kind of like a big alien astronaut kind of Thanos looking glowy red eyes artwork. Again, not necessarily the best cover art. Brainfever's attempt at world domination was a bit hindered by the art department. That's my conspiracy theory for the day. The big issue here on the EP is that Horst Newman is not the vocalist. Sad. They've brought in a new singer. I believe there were other lineup changes also at this point. So, band having some issues with stability here by the time you get to the EP. But let's check out a couple of clips from this, beginning with the title track, You. Okay, so intro was a little weird there. You notice they're starting to use some, keyboard type effects on the EP, but it didn't really get in the way of the song, which is, still pretty energetic and still moves along at a really good pace. So, yeah, overall, pretty decent song. The new vocalist. It's funny because Mark Simon is actually the old vocalist who's come back. Mark was the band's vocalist back when they were doing stuff in the 1970s, of which I have never come across any recorded output. Maybe there's footage of the band back in the 1970s on YouTube or something. I don't tend to dig on YouTube for old video footage as much as I probably should. So, yeah, if you know that there's some clips of the band in their pre-vinyl days, by all means, please share that in the comments. But anyway, Mark came back to the band after Newman had left and did the vocals for this EP. You can tell that he's got a bit more of a commercial leaning voice here. They're not trying to be like, really overly hair metal or anything like that, but his band definitely feels like it's probably got, a little more mainstream appeal to it. Going to play one more clip from the EP. This will be from the song Dangerous Lies. Okay, that's enough of that. So once again, you can hear the keyboards are starting to become a bit more of a thing within the music. And yeah, that song for me is not coming together as well as the title track on the EP did. So yeah, the EP, is a little hit or miss. It's sadly also the last thing that Brainfever did. The only other appearance of Brainfever I've stumbled across is they are reportedly on the Speed Kills Volume 2 compilation. I don't have that particular volume, but I think the track Brainfever is featured on it, and some folks have those volumes. So, yeah, you could also have checked out the band that way. But sadly, this was the end of the line for Brainfever. The EP came out in 1988, and it proved to be their swan song. The band's status over on the mothership of Metal Archives is listed as unknown. I'm going to assume that means they've been back together here or there to do some festival appearances, but don't really have any long-term plans. Not really sure if that's the case or not. If you haven't released anything since 1988, your band is done. Sorry. Unless, yeah, you've come back just, to do some live touring stuff. That's the only reason I can think of they'd be listed as unknown. So yeah, that is the Brainfever catalog. You get, two excellent albums, a very hard to find single, and an EP that has some good material on it. But yeah, it shows the band was starting to drift in a different direction there near the end of their run. If you're interested in Brainfever material and picking some of it up, it's never been the most expensive stuff other than the single. Also, it has been reissued. I believe it was Cult Metal Classics that put these out on CD. It's probably been over a decade ago now. I want to say it was like around 2008, 2009. But the bottom line is, the Brainfever material can be found on physical copies for a pretty reasonable price if that's how you want to check them out. And I'd highly encourage you to do so because they were a terrific band, a pretty unique sound that we've heard a little bit of here tonight. Like so many other great bands, they just didn't get quite the right break. Maybe it was the wrong time or the wrong label, or they missed that one big tour. But, for reasons, Brainfever is now one of those bands from the 80s that doesn't get all the attention that they should have. And hopefully, with this video, a few more folks will find out about them and enjoy their music as much as I do. So that's going to do it. Now let's talk metal in the comments down below. Again, if anybody knows anything about what Brainfever did back in the 1970s or those first couple of years in the 1980s, would love to hear about it. I know nothing about that period of the band's history. Maybe there's some stuff documented online I've just never come across. Please share it in the comments down below so other folks can learn what you know about the band as well. And yes, if you've seen the band or know that they're doing some tours here and there for something like Keep It True or Vakken or something, let folks know as well what they sound like out on the road these days. All right, that will do it for this video. Again, a big thank you to Rick for the VCLT, and a big thank you to Brainfever for making two absolutely killer albums that have been longtime favorites of mine. With that, time to sign off. So everybody take care, and until next time, keep banging your head. Just don't bang it so hard that you give your brain a fever.